Ye Olde Man Scythe Inn, 12th century tavern, 6 to 8 Churchgate, Bolton, BL1 1HL. In the 11th century, the first parish church was built. There would have been a pub nearby, and it was probably on that site. It's likely to have been little more than a hut that was open all the time. Literally, it had no walls. In the 12th century, the barrel-vaulted cellar was built, sometime before 1200, with a timber frame, wattle and daub building above. The remaining parts of the timber frame can be seen from the steps in the garden. This building had the layout of the two-side room. In 1160, Robert de Ferrers. Robert was the Earl of Derby and owner of the lands containing the inn. 1251, Bolton and the Earls of Derby, the Ferrers family, were granted royal charters for the market, which are celebrated by special events in the 21st century. Ownership of the pub passed through marriage from the Ferrers family to the Pilkingtons, from whom the pub sign was taken. 1485, the inn's ownership returned to the Earl of Derby. The pub became the property of the Stanley family after Leonard Pilkington was executed in Leicester for fighting on the side of Richard III at Bosworth. Henry VIII gave them the Pilkington estate and went on to reintroduce the earldom of Derby and make Thomas Lord Stanley the new Earl of Derby. Thus the inn was once again the property of the Earl of Derby. 1561 to 1642, William Stanley, the 6th Earl of Derby. William was strongly associated with the theatre and was for some time the patron of William Shakespeare. 1636, the modernisation. This converted some of the wattle and daub walls to brick. The half of the cellar under the building was altered, and its ceiling lowered by the construction of the wooden floor. This floor is level with the present flagstones and the bottom of the old door, which can be seen in the main bar. The central beam in the front bar was moved to its present location to support floorboards. This beam is the cross member from a roof support that has been reused from the 12th century building. 28th of May 1644, the Massacre of Bolton. This occurred outside as described in the late Victorian book John of God Sending, or The Lass at the Man Scythe. Somewhere between 100 and 500 soldiers and civilians were killed. The main killing ground was in the centre of town, which was in front of the pub. Horses were used to kill the soldiers. 3 p.m, October the 15th, 1651. James Stanley, 7th Earl of Derby, was beheaded. The execution took place in the marketplace, in front of the Olde Man Scythe Inn, and is commemorated each year by a reenactment. James took his last meal at the Olde Man Scythe Inn with James Cockerell, the licensee of the time. The pictures in the museum room of the pub depict the event. The executioner's skull is also pictured on the wall. James's execution at the hands of the parliamentary forces was due to his support for the Charles Stuart and the Royalists in their attack on the Bolton fortification in Old Acres near to Bolton Cross. The 1820s, Tom Donovan found the chair. This 1590 Flemish-style chair in a cabinet in the museum room at the Olde Man Scythe Inn. It bears the original brass label stating that Derby sat in the chair prior to his execution. The chair has been damaged by times in the 20th century. The Who damaged it in 1965, for example. The flagstone floor in front of the bar was laid around this time, over the original 12th century floor, which was beaten clay, overlaid with ashes and cobblestones. The holes used to secure the back wall of the Victorian bar may be seen in this floor. In the 1850s there was a fire, and part of the inn was destroyed by the fire. It was at this time that the remaining wattle and daub walls were replaced with brick, and the fine ceiling in the museum room was created. In the 1880s, Frank S. Hampson added the bay window and started the extension of the building. The petty was in the ginnel. 1920 to 1955, the space between the main building, the present toilets and the commercial kitchen was roofed. The famous long bar and corridor was created to facilitate waiter service, which was a commercial failure. In 1998, John Jewett restored the main bar to a layout and colour scheme closer to those existing before about 1870. Today, the Man and Scythe is a busy town centre pub with a beer garden which many regulars treat as their local. There is live music every Friday and Saturday evening, and the Olde Man Scythe is a camera-listed house for both real ale and ciders. The Olde Man Scythe is famous for another thing: its ghostly activities, with many patrons having experienced paranormal activities over the centuries.